Hey everybody, Gail Craft here, and we're going to talk a little bit about expressions of integrity during the 2 of the 5 days to focus. But first of all, I hope you did the homework last night and that you continue to do this kind of process of just releasing. As we covered yesterday, right, we talked about all of what goes on in your head, right? And only 750 bits of information can go in there. And if your head is cluttered, with old stories playing over and over again. If your head is cluttered with, some anger or some stories, things that you want to get rid of, then information that could be useful to you is not coming in. And so the act of releasing, right, and letting go and of forgiveness actually creates the space available for more meaningful things to happen. So I hope you practice that. If you didn't, please do, and practice it over and over and over again. I'd also like to, before we move on, is to talk to you about this word emotional intelligence that I've used and I will be using it throughout the course. So, what is emotional intelligence? It's not emotionally intelligent. If you feel incredibly sad and you do not cry, right? Just because someone cries does not mean they lack emotional intelligence. For me, crying is a process of releasing. It's how I process information internally and I let it go. That's for me. So, emotional intelligence is really when you're able to take a look at a situation that you're in, release whatever emotions that you have, recognize that those emotions are yours, maybe not really what's going on, that you got triggered, right? Managing those emotions in a way that understand them, then looking at the situation from different perspectives. So the story that you create in your mind about what happened is a story that might be a little bit more true to fact versus the story in your mind that you will create because you had a knee-jerk reaction to a trigger that occurred. So we do talk about triggers and how to manage those in my dark work that I do with some folks. Triggers are really, really interesting. We all have them, and we deal with one, and new one comes up. We have triggers from so many things. It's just recognizing that it's a trigger and recognizing that you can adjust this. Now, emotional intelligence is a real thing. You can take a test and see where you are on the EI scale. And if you don't like where you are on the EI scale, don't worry about it because you can change that. Okay, because I know it's a work in progress, right? So today we're going to talk about expressions of integrity. So we're going to talk about your little printout. You got your printout. I'm certainly hope, right? And expressions of integrity today, right? And integrity to me is the words that you use. Your word, your promise, your commitment must be law, right? And so if you're a person who overcommits themselves or find themselves in an overcommitted situation, you're going to feel stress, you're going to feel anxiety, you're going to feel depression maybe, right? You might even get frozen because there's too much going on, right? So we're going to go over some of the things that you should do and learn. One of them is the no word, and that's the first thing that's coming up, right? In order to manage your own time, right? And value who you are and value the others that you're talking with, right? I had an amazing boss when I worked at John Hancock, and she sat down with me and she said, Gail, watch my lips. Now, Watch, put your lips together and say no, right? No. So put your lips together and simply say no. It doesn't have to be harsh, it doesn't have to be mean. It's actually not a cruel thing. So today is a perfect example. I have a person that I'm working with who wants to work with me, but we haven't been able to coordinate our schedules to even talk about setting up a schedule. And so, we were in a meeting to get together today, and he said, "Listen, give me a call." So after the meeting, put a few things away, gave him a call, right to voicemail. So I sent him a text and said, "Sorry, missed you." And he sent me a message, "Can we meet later today?" No. My day is booked as well. So my response was, "No, I'm afraid not. But how about," and I looked at my calendar, I picked a date and time, and he has yet to get back to me, but we will find a time, right? I could have pushed things off and squeezed some time to fit him in, but I want to give him the honor of time to discuss what his needs are and where we can go, not squeeze him in the middle of other things that are going on. That's disrespectful, and I would feel stressed about it. So let's move on. Okay. So 5 days. What you mean is what you say, right? So research conducted at the University of California in San Francisco shows that the more difficulty that you have saying no, the more likely you are to express or experience stress, burnout, and even depression, all of which erode self control. So, we're talking about focus and we're talking about self control. If your mind is churning about, oh, I said I was going to be there and I can't be there, and I need to stop doing this now because I said I would do that, but I didn't get to finish this, but I said I would do that, and it and so on, and then you stop that, and next time you go back to that, you have to kind of back up and start all over again. It's a bit of a vicious cycle, and it just that conversation alone created some stress vibes here, right? And the stress means that you are physically and emotionally upset. If you're feeling stress in your body, it affects your body. The stress will affect your mind. It affects your mind. It affects your ability to make a good decision. Whenever you are in emotionally lower energy state, there's no way you're going to make a good decision. There are many times in my past that I made decisions from an emotional state that were never good decisions, right? And the good thing is I learned to not make decisions from that state, right? And to actually make decisions from a calm, cool, collected state where I am in control. And so the key is if you live in an overwhelmed life, if you live a life that's too fast for you to handle, then you're continually making bad decisions and you're continually going into a worse emotional state. On to the next one. Okay. So saying no is an act of self control now that will increase your future self control by preventing the negative effects of overcommitment. Okay. So say that again. Saying no is an act of self control now. So you're controlling yourself now by saying no, that will increase your future self control by preventing the negative effects of overcommitment, right? We were just talking about what happens when you're overwhelmed, right? And you make bad decisions, right? And you are out of control. When you're on that treadmill, and it is a treadmill that keeps going around and around and around, you've got to jump off. And honestly, if you find yourself in that kind of a treadmill situation, you do I strongly suggest that you reach out to a coach to help you slow down, to help you prioritize, to help you decide what is important to you. Next, Where you focus your attention determines your emotional state. So, again, where you focus your attention determines your emotional state. You've all heard the statement, what you focus on expands. Well, I hope you have. If you haven't, you just heard it. What you focus on expands, right? And so if you're focusing on overwhelm, if you're focusing on anxiety, if you're focusing on fear, that's just going to grow and get worse. It's not going to get better. And then it just snowballs. It just snowballs. And that will determine what you're focusing on, your emotional state. So if you're focusing on, let's talk about yesterday's, forgiveness and, oh God, every time they show up, it just reminds me of the time that, 4 years ago this happened. And now look at what's happening with the emotional state, right? You're starting getting into something, into a churn that has nothing to do with the value of the moment. You're losing the value of the moment, right? Next question, statement. Emotionally intelligent people won't dwell on the problem because they know they're most effective when they focus on solutions, right? So, I think I mentioned yesterday, I had this amazing mentor when I was at John Hancock that used to say, when we would have a strategy and we would put a plan together and the plan failed, he would just say, okay, so what do we do next? Right? We had a huge blow up that occurred, and I won't go into the details, but one of my staff made a mistake, right? And the CFO comes out of his office roaring, right? Who did this, right? And, I stood in front of my staff and I said, it's my fault. My staff did it. It's my fault. You've got that right. And he left. And what was the response? Yes, it's my fault because I did not train someone right? I missed something in thinking they understood a conversation. And so it's my fault, my responsibility to fix the mistake and retrain. And so, that's exactly what I did. Okay, here's where the breakdown occurred. So let's go to before the breakdown, just like your own life. Here's where something occurred. The breakdown occurred, your emotional state, what happened just before. Okay, so just before, here's what we're going to tweak and do a little bit differently. And here are the checks and balances we're going to put in place. Done. No blame, no anxiety, no stress. The stress that the poor staff member felt was gone very quickly because I did not blame that person. I blamed me for not being clear enough in the training to be sure they understood what I was saying, right? So keep your emotional state in check, right? Notice where you're at and notice the decisions you're making are from a specific state. So there's nothing wrong with shooting for the stars, and I mean shooting for the stars. If you believe in yourself, you can accomplish almost anything. This is so, so critical, guys. There's nothing wrong with shooting for the stars. If you believe in yourself, you can accomplish almost anything. That doesn't mean taking on more than you can chew. It means taking achievable steps every day, but with your eye on the prize, right? And knowing that you deserve it. So believe that you can do it, but most importantly, believe that you deserve this, right? If you have a desire, if you have a dream, then you deserve to see this dream, this desire come to fruition, to come to life. It's your right. You dreamt it, you deserve it. And bottom line, in all cases, absolutely go ahead and make yourself fearless, make yourself fierce, make yourself a fireball. Go for it, right? But learn to say no when it does not make sense. right? That's how you manage your time. Gonna hold up the homework. It looks kind of big, doesn't it? Right? So the homework, let's take a look at it. So create habits for success. That's what we're going to do. We're going to define your personal mission statement, your personal mission statement. You, not your business, not your career, you as an individual. Define you as a person and define what it is that you are working towards each and every day. You as a person, right? Write it down. What are your top 2 or 3 objectives for today, right? And what's on your to-do list? Check it off as you go, right? These are steps for success. And be sure that those 2 or 3 things align with the definition of who you are in your mission statement. Identify and set up rewards for yourself for your accomplishments, including personal care days and vacations. Schedule them. I have a client that I'm working with, and she said, one day, my husband and I are going to take a trip, blah, blah, blah. I said, nah, no, let's put a pin in it. Let's pick a date. And lo and behold, they're picking like 4 months from now. It will happen because she's now planning for it. She's going to save for it. She's reaching out to a travel agent, right, to get her options. She would never have done it, right? And yet another year would go by. So this is so juicy, so wonderful. To reward herself, she's done a fantastic job. She deserves it, right? So create 1 or 2 micro goals for the month. And how will you know that you've succeeded, right? So 1 or 2 micro goals. So for me, one of them was to create this mini course. How do I know I've done? I've created and I'm presenting the mini course, right? I have another mini small objective for next month is to finish most of the copy on my website because I'm going to be redoing my website. I've started working on that and it's a short month, so I've got days that I'm going to be working on just the website copy, refresh it and clean it up, and then schedule a photo shoot so we have some nice fresh pictures to go in there, right? Review yourself, right? We've all had performance reviews. Well, not all, but if any of you have ever worked in a corporate environment, you've had an annual review. Review yourself, right? But from love. Hold a little annual review. What is working well and what do you need to change? So, what is working well, you don't ever want to stop doing that. You want to remember to keep doing those things. But what didn't work quite so well, how do you change that up? Bring it up a notch, right? And then that's your whole personal life. My son and daughter-in-law, they actually on the 1st of January, most people go and celebrate New Year's. They go out and they have a nice dinner, some wine, and they take a look at what they had set out to do this year and did they accomplish it? And, congratulate each other on the love and the care and the family and you just congratulate each other and then plan for the coming year, right? Or review the plans that they've made during the previous year that's coming up. One of the things that they do before a vacation is over, and I suggest this to my clients now because I think it's precious. If they're on a vacation before the trip is done, they already have a date for the next trip and a potential what they will do, but definitely a date set for when the next trip is going to be. Getaway trip. Even if it just means a drive to, 3 hours from here and, stay in a cottage somewhere, though it usually doesn't. They've got it planned. So that's a good cycle to get into to be sure that this self-care doesn't slip off, right? But review, and that's part of the review cycle. Seek feedback from others, right? And it can be a very informal way. It doesn't have to be a formal survey, but ask someone, what am I doing well? If I could up one thing, what could it be? I have 2 coaches I'm working with, two, right? And, they both challenge me and push me, right? Because I can always do more, just like my personal trainer, right? Come on, Gail, just do one more. All right, you did that. Can you do one more? Absolutely, you can. Just one more, right? Just do one more. And so ask for critique, not criticism. And if you do get criticism, then you just don't ask that person again. Don't take it personally. They don't understand what critique is. Critique is how you can improve, right? What are the steps that you can do maybe to make an experience better? And sometimes it's an isolated situation. You take that information and you do your own validation on it, but absolutely listen to what others have to say. So again, this is your homework. I want you to try this tonight and see how this works for you. Gail Craft, I'm going to stop now and hope you all have a great rest of the day and a great evening, and we will get together tomorrow. Bye.